All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. GMS's bi-monthly webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about emergency response training. I am Andrew Botar-Dillon, Safety Coordinator for GMS in Central Ohio. If your business is located here in Central Ohio, I am your Safety Coordinator. I'll be moderating this discussion today and this webinar. If you have any questions at any time, feel free to go ahead and post them up in the chat. We'll be doing a Q&A at the end of the presentation. I'd like to introduce now our presenter today. This is James Gambrell, our safety coordinator out of state. If your business is located in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, or Florida, James is your safety coordinator. If you haven't met with James before, he'll share his contact information at the end of the presentation today. I highly encourage you to reach out to him. He's an excellent resource for all of your occupational work safety needs. And without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over now to James to begin the presentation. James, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andrew, for that introduction. Very nice. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the emergency response training presentation. Thank you for doing your best to learn this important information. We're going to try to eliminate some of the myths about an emergency action plan. You don't need a manual to communicate with your employees on what emergency procedures you want done at your work site. Some can be 1 page or 2 pages long. So we're going to get started. We're going to start with a disclaimer. KPA is the one who produced this PowerPoint, and we are presenting it. So we are assume no responsibilities for the errors or omissions from this training. All right. In this training course, you will learn how to develop an emergency action plan based on the hazards and other potential emergencies, assign responsibilities to employees, understand the process of deploying an emergency action plan, learn the initial steps in handling a medical, fire, or other emergencies, address natural disasters that may affect the workplace. The course will discuss developing an emergency action plan, medical emergencies, fire emergencies, extended power loss, chemical spills, and severe weather and natural disasters. When emergency response procedures are known, practiced, and followed in an emergency situation, the emergency will result in fewer injuries and damage to the facilities. Emergency action plans, or what we call EAPs, provide a step-by-step procedure for employees to follow in case of an emergency, such as a fire, chemical spill, or a major accident. EAPs also address natural disasters that can affect the workplace, such as floods, hurricanes, or tornadoes. The emergency action plan includes information such as who to notify in case of emergency, who's been assigned to do evacuations, rescue, medical, and critical plant operation tasks. An EAP must also include the name and job title of every employee who may be contacted for more information about the plan or for explanation of duties. EAPs must be in writing, kept in the workplace, available for review. However, if an employer has 10 or fewer employees, the plan may be communicated orally. Once a detailed plan has been developed that outlines the requirement in the event of an emergency, the resulting policy is distributed to employees. Remember, guys, communication is the key. That is the 90% of emergency action plan, to make sure that once your plan is established, that you explain this to all your employees. Training your employees will also include threats and hazards at the workplace, appropriate emergency response procedures, procedures for notification, warning, and communication, location of evacuation routes and on-site shelters, location of fire extinguishers, alarms, and other emergency equipment, You can do practice drills, and once you assign the duties to individuals for various roles such as medical, rescue, or shutdown responsibilities. The first step in developing an emergency action plan is deciding who will develop it, who will implement it, and who will maintain the plan. Usually your manager of operations or a safety officer would handle these responsibilities. Recruiting your employees to participate in management and the development of the plan will increase employee commitment and support. Your workers are out there in the office area or on the job site. They have knowledge of what's going on and what's going around. They can also assist in putting in some information on what to do in case of an emergency. Start at determining, excuse me, I'm sorry, building a written program. This is how you start. The first thing you want to do is assign responsibilities. This is you bringing in your managers, supervisors, foremen, lead men, and assign duties on certain emergencies. Some may have CPR training. Some may have first aid training. Some know the knowledge of the equipment and how to shut it down safely. So you want to assign a responsibility determining to each and every emergency hazard or action plan you have. Which we go on to the types of hazards. You may have one for tornadoes. You may have one for first aid and medical emergencies. You may have one for hurricane, flooding, fire. Fire is the most common one. And then developing procedures for that. Now, I'm going to suggest here that if you have an emergency action plan on tornadoes or fires, especially with fires, you need to also train your employees in fire safety. It's usually an hour long for them to go over the proper procedures in preventing or fighting a fire. An EAP includes evacuation maps. The following information is the minimum is noted on these maps. Emergency exits, primary and secondary evacuation routes, location of fire extinguishers, fire alarm, pull station locations, and assembly areas where a head count can be conducted. Work area monitors identified in the emergency action plan must assure that all physical challenge employees are assisted in emergency evacuation. In addition, they must sweep their assigned areas to confirm that all employees and visitors have evacuated the area. Once they've reached a designated assembly area, they must perform an accurate head count and report any missing personnel to responsible individuals. Other designated personnel and the EAP may be required to do the following tasks: operate a fire extinguisher, disconnect utilities, shut windows and doors before evacuating, if it's safe to do so, provide the fire personnel with necessary information about the facility and the head count. Immediately after being notified of an emergency requiring evacuation, all occupants in the facility, including the visitor, must leave the building using designated evacuation routes. Assemble in a designated area as detailed in the emergency action plan. Remain outside until the assigned competent authority announces that it's safe to re-enter. Report any problems to the emergency coordinator at the assembly area. We're going to discuss fire emergencies. Fire is a rapid oxidation reaction that produces energy in the form of heat and light. Fire requires three components: fuel, heat or energy, and oxygen. These three components lead to a chemical chain reaction as rapid oxidation begins. The chemical chain reaction is what most people describe as fire. Remove any of these components will extinguish the fire. When a fire burns, the vapor above the fuel is burning, not the liquid or the solid fuel itself. Vapor production is a function of pressure and temperature. As more heat is generated, more vapor is produced, and the fire grows. The flash point is the temperature at which a liquid fuel gives off enough vapor to form an ignitable mixture. An ignition source is an energy source of sufficient temperature to cause the ignition of a flammable vapor. Common ignition sources include matches, smoking, electrical equipment, and static electricity. Auto ignition temperature of a liquid has no relationship to its flash point. It is the minimum temperature required to initiate combustion independently of any ignition source. Now, one thing about fire emergencies that I'd like to go over, when you train your employees for fire, it's good to train them on how to use the fire extinguisher, but put in this your notes that if the fire is not extinguished within the first 5 minutes, you need to evacuate and let the professionals come in and do the firefighting. That is usually by then the fire is out of hand and you're putting your employees at risk of getting injured. So, flammable material present the danger of fire and explosion and often contribute to a toxic environment. These materials include liquid, gases, and solid. Flammable liquids have a flash point of less than 93 degrees Celsius. Flammable gases are flammable in standard condition, including standard pressure and an air temperature of 20 degrees Celsius or room temperature. Flammable solids may readily combust or may feed a fire through the friction. The use, processing, or storage of flammable material is common in many industries, including manufacturing, food processing, construction, and transportation. Any person working in a flammable environment must receive training on the safe use of a fire response. Customize, when a fire is discovered, EAPs typically direct employees to activate the nearest fire alarm and to notify others. The lead person that you might have assigned on calling the fire department or 911 needs to be also discussed in your EAP. Portable fire extinguishers control or extinguish small or incipient stage fires to protect evacuation routes that may become blocked by fire or smoke. They must be located throughout the facility, readily accessible, kept in their designated places, fully charged and operational. Remember to discharge the extinguisher after the use. Perform monthly inspections on the extinguishers, and have a qualified professional perform an annual maintenance check. This is one of the things that you would teach in fire safety, is how to use the fire extinguisher, which is the pass technique, which is pull the pin, remove the safety pin, aim, properly aim, which is very important. Aim the nozzle at the base of the fire. That's how you can kill the fire. And then squeeze. Once you discharge, you want to do a sweeping motion from side to side. Extinguish the fire only if all the following criteria are met. The fire is small and is not spreading to other areas. Escaping the area is possible by backing up to the nearest exit. Fire extinguisher is in working condition. You are trained to use extinguisher and you are assigned to do so by the EAP. It is very necessary to contact the fire department after these steps. These are the different classes of extinguishers that you have. Most everyone has the ABC, which covers ordinary combustibles, flammable liquids, and energized equipment. That's some of the information that you would also receive in the fire safety training. Uh, First aid procedures for fire. Smoke inhalation, you want to remove the individual to fresh air and seek medical assistance. Report the situation representative to the fire department or other emergency response organization on the scene. Eye irritation, flush with large amounts of water for 15 minutes or until the irritation subsides. Seek medical attention. Burns, major burns are those that are large, affect all layers of the skin, and have charred appearance. These will be beyond the scope of basic first aid treatment and will need to seek professional medical assistance. Report the situation to the fire department or the EMT. If possible, to do so safely, remove the injured individuals from the burn source. Burns require specialized emergency medical attention, so call 911 immediately. Do not treat the person's burns while waiting for emergency help unless you are certified in such care. Fire extinguisher agents are basically dry chemical powder or carbon dioxide gas may be inhaled during the use. The affected individual should get fresh air. Seek medical assistance if they show signs of injury. Report the situation to the fire department, representatives, or other emergency response organizations at the scene. You can consult your SDS on if you have different types of flammable chemicals or different type of chemicals on your site. Knowledge check. Make sure that your employees know what PASS is, or at least have some fire safety training. Make sure that once you produce a fire emergency EAP, that you pass that information along to all your employees, that it is printed and put it in your safety SOP or standard operating procedures, and post one at your notification board or in the break room. Medical emergencies plans address how medical assistance is provided. Typically, in the event of a medical emergency, the EAP will direct employees to do the following. First, call for help by shouting to nearby employees. Then call the appropriate emergency phone numbers as soon as possible. Who to call is to be noted on the EAP. 911, EMT, fire department would be an example, sheriff's department as well. And would depend on whether a facility has a formal internal medical program or relies on local emergency services. If unsure whether the situation is an emergency, call the emergency number and explain the situation. Dispatcher will ask questions and assist in providing appropriate care. Provide the following information to the dispatcher: the nature of the medical emergency, the location of the emergency, including address, and the building or room number if applicable, your name, and the phone number you are calling from. Do not move a victim unless it is absolutely necessary, such as when there's an imminent danger from a fire, explosion, or electrocution. Workplaces without informal internal medical programs usually have employees trained in first aid, including CPR and AED use. Seek their assistance. They should be listed on the EAP as qualified to do those things until professional medical help arrives. First aid should be performed by trained personnel only. If you have someone performing CPR that's never been trained, you need to stop them immediately and have someone that is trained for CPR to perform the care. Eye wash stations. If you have chemicals in your area, most eye wash stations are plumbed in by a supply line. You need to list that on a floor plan on where the eye wash stations are. If you do not have one piped in, portable stations are available to buy, especially for office areas and small shops. Just need to make sure that if you do have a portable eye wash station, that you monitor it monthly to make sure that it's full, it's not contaminated, and it's still serviceable. These are some of the things that you want to make sure that are on your EAP. In medical emergencies, where the eye wash station is, where the first aid kit is. Do you have trained people on hand with CPR or first aid? And also where the nearest emergency medical facility would be, the nearest hospital or after hours care. In an event of extended power loss to a facility, certain precautionary measures must be taken by authorized personnel. Depending on the location and environment of the facility, determine which measure applies to your facility and include them in your emergency action plan. Turn off unnecessary electrical equipment and appliances because power restoration could cause a surge that damages electronics and other sensitive equipment. If the facility is likely to experience freezing temperatures during a long-term power loss, turn off and drain the following: fire sprinkler systems, stand-down pipes, potable water lines, and toilets. Add non-toxic antifreeze to drains and to prevent drain traps from freezing. Move equipment containing fluids that may freeze due to a long-term exposure to freezing temperatures to heated areas. Either drain the liquid or provide equipment with an auxiliary heat source. Upon restoration of the heat and power, electronic equipment should be brought up to ambient temperatures before energizing to prevent damage. After the heat has been restored to the facility and water has been turned back on, authorized personnel will check fire and water piping for leaks from freeze damage. Chemical spills. If a chemical spill occurs, stay calm and assess the situation before beginning the cleanup process. Only trained employees should participate in cleanup chemical spills. Assess the hazard of the scenario and develop your cleanup plan. In your emergency action plan, I would base it off the SDS data sheet that is provided for that certain chemical. Any information that's on that data sheet should be transferred to your emergency action plan. You do not want competent or authorized people doing the cleanup. You want qualified, trained personnel that knows the chemical, knows what PPE to use, what process it takes to clean it up to use it. You do not want to put anybody in harm's way that's not trained to do so. I've already stated to base your EAP for that chemical spill, base it off your safety data sheets. Any chemical, you can go through the manufacturer's online website and pull the SDS sheet for that chemical. If a large spill occurs, immediately identify or notify a designated official or emergency coordinator. Evacuate the building as necessary and secure the area. Attend to any injured personnel and call medical emergency number if required. Most large spill cleanups, you need licensed and certified qualified people to come in and to remediate the hazard. Small spills, if you have an emergency spill kit, make sure that your employees are trained on how to use these spill kits. It's a 30-minute Monday morning meeting with your employees to notify them and communicate with them the proper use of it. Along with the EAP, make sure that what you are showing to your employees match your EAP. First aid procedure for chemical spills. Chemical inhalation is kind of common sense. You want to make sure that you remove the employee to a well-ventilated and non-infected area. Eye contact, eye wash station, skin contact, remove the contaminated clothing if possible and flush immediately. This where you need to go back to your SDS and your EAP. Some chemicals you have to treat differently if been exposed to skin and it's caustic. Ingesting, that should be on your SDS, how to handle something if someone is ingested hazardous chemical, and to call the professional medical help immediately. All right, this is the most common EAPs that most people have is severe weather. What to do if severe weather happens at your site or at your office. You need to have someone in control of monitoring. This is usually an operation manager or a safety officer that monitors the warnings and the conditions of the area that you are in. Hazardous weather is likely or is already occurring and may cause damage to people or the property. So you need to have someone to advise everyone, look, we have tornado warnings in the area. You need to be prepared just in case we get taken over by a tornado. Know what to do, know where the evacuation routes are, make sure that everyone knows that this is the muster point, this is where we're going to gather if certain emergency arises. There are many potential hazards when a severe weather event occurs. Some of the most common hazards associated with extreme weather include puncture and abrasion hazards from flying debris, inhalation of exposures to dust, smoke, dangerous chemicals, or mold, electrocution from damaged electrical systems, down powered lines or lighting, drowning, hypothermia from cold weather exposure, increased chemical or biological hazard exposure from damaged containers, impact injuries from displaced items as down trees or debris, lifting injuries like muscle strains and sprains. I will say this, that you need to state on your emergency action plan for severe weather is do not record the event. I know that on most media platforms, it shows people recording events like tornadoes and things like that. You do not want your employees doing that. So you need to state that not recording event and to quickly head to your muster point or to a safe place designated in the EAP. Somebody out there recording the event is bound to get hurt. In the aftermath of a severe weather event, workers may be involved in various general response and recovery operations, such as cleaning up minor damage to the work site. However, operations with significant potential for injury, such as utility restoration, cleaning up spills of hazardous material, and search and rescue will only be conducted by community provided services and subcontractors. As soon as the danger passes, it is important to account for everyone at the facility. It is efficient to account for everyone by assembling a muster point or evacuation assembly area and have that stated on your EAP. Employees should remain in the assembly area until told to leave by their management or the responsible party stated on your EAP. Emergency action plans typically include procedures to follow if natural disasters common to the area threaten the workplace. One of these is tornadoes. Can occur almost anywhere, but are more common and severe in some areas. When a tornado warning is issued by sirens or other means, immediately go to your designated on-site shelter. That needs to be stated in your EAP. If there is no on-site shelter, go to the windowless interior room of the hallway or the lowest floor of the building. That needs to be stated in your EAP. Stay away from outside walls and windows. Use your arms to protect the back of your head and your neck. Remain sheltered until a designated individual announces that the tornado threat is over and has assessed the situation of being safe to relieve shelter in place. That needs to be stated on EAP too. Who is the designated person that's going to give the all clear? That person that does that must assess the area before sending someone out. Your building might be half damaged and falling. Sending people out of a sheltered area into that dangerous area may cause injury. So you want to make sure you have someone that's competent enough to assess an all clear. Earthquakes can hit with no warning almost anywhere at any time of the year and are impossible to predict. Most earthquake-related injuries result from collapsing walls, flying glass, and falling objects as a result of the ground shaking or people trying to move more than a few feet during the shaking. If the earthquake starts, immediately get under a close by sturdy desk or other protective structure to hold on to. Protect your eyes, keeping your head down. These are some of the things you would list in your EAP. Keep away from overhead fixtures, windows, filing cabinets, and electrical power sources. Stay in your safe place and remain calm until you have received an all clear from an authorized or competent person. Evacuate only if instructed to by emergency medical personnel or by that authorized competent person that works with you. Make sure this is stated on your EAP. If you are outside when an earthquake starts, stay outside and move away from buildings, trees, and power lines. Be on the lookout for fires. Fires are most common with earthquake. It is one of the hazards related to it due to broken gas lines or damaged electrical lines. Be ready for aftershocks. Flood or tsunami. If a flood or tsunami alert is issued and you are indoors, be ready to evacuate as directed by your emergency coordinator or other designated official. This is some of the things that you would state on your EAP. And follow the recommended primary or secondary evacuation routes. If the alert is issued and you are working outdoors, for example, in a remote job site, follow evacuation routes or climb to a high ground and stay there. Avoid walking or driving through floodwater. If your vehicle stalls, abandon it immediately and climb to high ground. Hurricanes, I'm gonna say this about hurricanes. If hurricanes gives you enough warning, we have a system and technology advanced enough to give us plenty of warning. So your EAP on hurricane evacuations and procedures pretty much needs to state to your employees to follow the directions of local authorities or emergency action service. Unless you have a company dynamics that needs someone to monitor the situation, chemicals. But most of the time, if you are ordered to evacuate, that's usually 2 or 3 days ahead of the storm before it hits. Make sure that is what you want to state to your employees. Do not come into work, evacuate and follow local authorities' rules and observations. Blizzards typically have advance notice before they occur, just like a hurricane. Check with management and if you will be needed at work. Blizzards are just as dangerous as tornadoes or hurricane. You get caught out in one, you have a tendency to freeze to death or find yourself in other harm situations. So stating on your, if you have blizzard, if you're in an area where you have blizzards, some of the things that you might want to stay on your EAP is to go to a warmer interior of the area of the building if possible. Stay hydrated. Add layer of clothing if available. If you're outdoors, you need to find yourself a shelter in place wherever possible and stay dry and stay hydrated. These are some of the things that you would state on your emergency action plan. If your business is in the area prone to blizzards and employees work at a remote job site or are frequently on the road, including your EAP, procedures for them to follow if they become stranded in a vehicle during a blizzard. Employees stranded in a vehicle during severe weather should follow the emergency best practices. Clear the vehicle exhaust pipe of snow and ice to avoid carbon monoxide buildup. Periodically run the vehicle about every 10 minutes of the hour. Use the heater while the vehicle is running. Use the vehicle inside dome light to help draw attention to your vehicle at night. Perform small movements while staying inside the vehicle to maintain circulation. And tie a cloth to the vehicle antenna to indicate the need for assistance. These are some of the things that you would put on your EAP for those that work for your company and travel. Heat, excessive heat exposure, such as heat stress. This is a good emergency action plan on what to do if someone is injured by exposure to too much heat, having heat stress or heat stroke. You want to list the proper first aid procedures of that, which is remove the injured worker to a shaded area, hydrate the injured worker, not with a lot of water, but just sips at a time. You need to check the pulse and seeing if they are aware of their surroundings. If they are not, you need to call the EMT or the fire department, 911. Have all this stated in your EAP. Wildfires, certain areas are especially vulnerable due to drought, population sprawl, and increasing high heat days each year. Beyond devastating property damage, wildfires also produce toxic smoke that impairs the health. The emergency response coordinators should be prepared to monitor weather and fire conditions. The Air Quality Index and coordinate efforts to protect employees based on standards set by their local or state government, or follow these best practices. Stay up to date with emergency communications, as a shift in the wind could potentially cause the need for a quick evacuation or prevent a safe evacuation from occurring. Maintain a safety zone around the business, free from vegetation and combustible or flammable material to minimize fire risk. Ensure the indoor shelter in place area can be removed from such outside air sources. Consider adding air purifiers to your facility emergency kit. After the immediate threat of fire, lingering smoke and dust may create an unsafe air quality for employees. Employers or a competent person can monitor the air quality by using equipment and government monitoring services. Here's one, like airnow.gov, to measure air quality depending on air quality levels and state and local requirements. Respirators may be recommended. Most of these are like escape respirators. They're only good for about 5 minutes, but they will assist your employees to get to a safe area. Anyone using a respirator should follow all the necessary regulatory requirements. If respirators become required, facility management must install a respiratory protection plan and follow all regulatory requirements. All right, we come to a summary. Emergency action plan is a written or oral plan outlining steps in a workplace that will follow the what to do in the event of emergency. This includes procedures for reporting the emergency, evacuating a facility, or sheltering in place as appropriate, accounting for all employees, and responding to emergency situations. EAPs also designate employees responsible for rescue, medical, and critical plant operations. Employee training will assure that employers and employees will know the procedures and their roles when emergency strikes. Possible emergency situations include medical, fire, power, chemical, and bomb threats. Severe weather and natural disasters such as tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, and blizzards, depending on facilities' geographic location, will also need to be addressed. Now, one thing I will say, if you work at the main office and you have 5 different locations, you need to have an EAP for each location. And they can be the same, or they really need to fit the dynamics of that area. You need to keep that with you on file. That way, you know what your employees are doing in case they're under emergency. You have that that piece of paper. They're following that procedure, and then you know what they're doing. You know who to contact for updates and to make sure that everyone is good to go. All right. YouTube is a good resource for training videos. If you want to train your employees in-house, I would definitely look into that if you need some video to show. All right. Sorry about that. Anybody got any questions?
There is one question, and that is, what if the employees travel to multiple homes in a day and don't necessarily work in the office? Care to take a shot at that one?
Yes, you just need to, it needs to curtail the dynamics of your company. So in case of a tornado and your employees are out traveling in that area, they need to find a shelter in place. You need to explain to them to find a low-lying area. That's some of the procedures of that would be, and then also to check in with someone that you coordinate back at the home office to let them know that, hey, yeah, I was in a dangerous area, but I'm fine, I'm healthy, I'm not injured, vice versa. So that would be some of the things that you would want on your EAP for them. Certain steps of that nature for tornadoes. It would probably be the same for flooding, that not to drive down flooded streets. If the area becomes very imminent, rising water, to leave the vehicle immediately and head to higher ground. That's some of the things that you would list for them and to make sure that they know. Now, some things that OSHA will allow you to do, they will allow you to keep some things on a hard drive. Your safety SOP can be kept on a hard drive as long as it's obtainable by the employees. So if you put an emergency action plan in your SOP on a hard drive, you could also notify those that are working satellite, send it to them in an email, and make sure that you have ways to know that they received it and have read it. Make sure that they know it and what to do in any case of emergency. I hope that answered that question. Do y'all see the lady with the chainsaw on my screen?
Yeah, I see it now. So if you want to go ahead and roll with that video, we can give that a watch. Thanks, James.
All right.
If you do have any questions, you can go ahead and put them up in the chat. I also have shared the contact information for James. Again, he's your safety coordinator if you're in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, or Tennessee. His cell phone number and email address are up there. If you happen to be in Central Ohio, my name's Andrew, and I am your safety coordinator. My contact info is in the chat as well. If you aren't in Central Ohio or any of those other areas I mentioned, if you email safetysupport@groupmgmt.com, and again, that's posted up in the chat, we'll be able to assist you and get you in touch with your safety coordinator. Not seeing any other questions posted right now, but I wanted to tell you all thank you so much for attending today. This presentation will be sent out and shared with all the participants via email address today or tomorrow. So you'll have access to this presentation and the slides. So if there aren't any other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up at this time. Thank you again for attending. Oh, let's see, there's one. Okay, gotcha. Thank you so much for attending today. We appreciate it. And please don't hesitate to reach out to your safety coordinator if we can be of any assistance. Thank you for being valued clients of Group Management Services, and we wish you all a very pleasant and safe day. James, any closing remarks?
Yes. If you do decide to do an emergency action plan and you need assistance, of course, we'll help you with that. Also, we have the ability to do the fire safety training, CPR, AED training, first aid training. So if you need some of your employees certified in that, that's backed by Red Cross, we would be glad to help you and assist you in that.
All right, awesome. And Matt, I do see your question. Do you have any checklists or documentation to go along with the presentation? Yes, we do. We have some templates and checklists available. I'll be sure to include those resources as an attachment with the email when I send out the presentation today. Thank you for the great question, and thank you again for getting that link posted up so quickly. Really appreciate the help. All righty. Thank you so much to all of you for being here today. Be safe. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.